The remake of Metal Gear Solid 3 just came out, but it has plenty of performance issues on the PC, to the point where even a really good rig can only run it at 720p to get a stable 60 FPS, even at literal 360p, and the game still stutters and dips to 30 FPS. Thankfully, since the game is available on the 7Cs, I am able to experience it firsthand, and while running the game on my RTX 3060 laptop, I can verify that this game runs like absolute garbage, even when I capped it at 30 FPS. On the other hand, Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, or the Subsistence version at least, from the Master Collection Volume 1, runs beautifully at 60 FPS, so that's the version that I recommend. There are perfectly valid reasons to complain about the utterly horrendous performance of this game, but to some people, those complaints were invalid. If you're a gamer and consider a game terrible because it runs between 30 and 60 FPS, then you're just a whiny, spoiled brat. Okay then, I guess I am one of those whiny, spoiled brat that demands some standards out of my $70 game. You can call me that all you like, but the fact remains that the game still runs like ass. Imagine crying that a remake isn't up to the same standards as a brand new current game. That's a perfectly valid reason to complain about, actually. You can dismiss it as crying all you like. We're not gonna stop complaining about it. Also, it is a brand new game. It remakes the original while adding new quality of life features at the top of it. These gamers nowadays are so entitled it makes me sick. Yes, how dare we demand standards for our $70 games? Those entitled gamers, am I right? When other games in the same generation can run 4K 120 or higher, I would expect a brand new game to at least run 1080 60 FPS. Well, here's a very sensible take. How are you gonna respond with that? I would expect that too, but it's not a brand new game. It's a remake from a PS2 game. Bro, Metal Gear Solid 3 Subsistence is also on Steam as part of the Master Collection. That is an actual PS2 game remastered to run on modern platforms, and it still runs way better than whatever this game was offering, because it is an actual PS2 game, whereas the new game is a proper remake, an entirely new game. There's nothing whiny about framerate concerns, especially if you're running top-tier PC rigs and it still runs like garbage. Unfortunately, Metal Gear Solid Delta fell victim to Unreal Engine 5's notoriously terrible optimization standards, and it's starting to be more apparent that the issue is on the engine side than the developers. We have plenty more utterly brain-dead take in regards to video game remakes. I really hate all the remakes are soulless people. What do you want? The same PS2 graphics again? If it's a remaster, I am definitely asking for that authentic PS2 graphics, which I totally get on the Master Collection version of Metal Gear Solid 3, but that's because it's quite literally just a remastered port. Delta is a remake that follows the original storyline beat by beat, but it adds new gameplay mechanics and quality of life features that weren't in the original. It's more in line with Persona 3 Reload than Remake 4. I think they're excellent on their own rights, and I also don't like the people that claim that the remakes are soulless or whatever, but that label definitely applies to some remake more than others. No, I don't want to play the crap graphics and horrible gameplay of the originals. Wow, what an utter disrespect to the original. Again, you can play the original just fine through the Master Collection, and the graphics look pretty excellent too. The same thing happened with Persona 3. The original was major dog poo. Wow, what an utterly brain-dead take. I do agree that Persona 3's gameplay isn't as polished as the latter installments, but to call it major dog poo when the game is incredibly influential to the franchise is an utter disrespect to the original. Reload improved absolutely everything, and somehow idiots hated Reload because more clunky soul gameplay. That doesn't make them idiots, it just means they don't agree with you. The only idiot in the room here is the person who calls others idiots for not having the same take as you. Played the whole franchise, that's why I know some games actually need a remake. No, they don't. They just need ports. And they got them. Or at least the first couple of games for now. You man children need to take off your nostalgia goggles and realize it. Man children, nostalgia goggles, all you got are insults here, and none of it proves that your take is good. You don't get it, Zoomers. This still looks good in my Picorino PS2. Of all the screenshots that you picked the one that actually looks good. Sorry, but the fail is on you on this one. Also, more insults, which will definitely convince me that your take is good, right? We got plenty more gaming takes in this video. As always, if you like this video so far, don't forget to click the like button, comment, subscribe, and leave some tips through any of these means, including YouTube membership, links below. Thank you to all the sponsors this week, you're all fantastic. This change might kill emulation on Android phones next year. And they're not kidding on that one. What happens is in 2026, Google will require ID verification for developers based in Brazil, Singapore, Thailand, and the country of yours truly, Indonesia, if they want to distribute their apps inside and even outside of the Play Store. Unfortunately, this policy will apply universally in 2027, which will require all developers to submit their ID where Android is certified. Does this apply to all emulators in the store? Thankfully, no. Some emulators are verified on the Play Store and can be downloaded just fine in all your devices, even if they are outdated version of those. However, some emulators are not verified on the Play Store. They can only be acquired outside of the Play Store, and they avoid verification to avoid legal risk, as emulation is still on the legal gray area. There is a silver lining to this whole thing, in that this is mostly going to affect Android phones and Google Play Protect certified devices. Android gaming handhelds are generally not going to be affected. Still, this is a major blow to anyone that loves to play classic emulated titles on their Android phones. Personally, I mostly only play Microsoft Solitaire on my phones, that or just an occasional game of Balatro. If I want to play retro games on the go, my jailbroken 3DS can do that just fine. If I want to play something that the 3DS cannot handle, I really don't mind sitting in front of the computer playing those games. But it does suck that a lot of Android users are not going to be able to emulate certain consoles on their platforms thanks to this policy. But hey, at least when you're dealing with emulation and retro games, you don't have to pay a single cent. Some people really should stop consuming video games this way. Y'all really thought I was lying on 2K Intel's post in the comments. Oh my god, how much money did you spend on these? The first one is already $326.22. This person then funded their wallets with $75, $100, $25, and another $25. That's about $75, $150, $250, $275, $300. That's $325, which you spent on another $326.22 worth of virtual currency pack, and then you spent another $10.87 for season pass. That's nearly $1,000 wasted on NBA 2K26, a game that won't come out until next week by the time of this video. And I bet my kidneys that this guy pre-ordered the game already. I mean, he's willing to spend nearly $1,000 worth of micropayments already. Of course he pre-ordered that game. To all the responsible adults in the room who are broke and have nothing much in your wallets, please do not be like this guy. And to all the people lurking the internet, please do not make insane takes like this. Actually, keep on making them because I'm definitely putting them on my videos. Let me show you the mad ramblings of a lunatic. The proliferation of Souls-likes can be directly correlated to an increase in right-wing ideologies and nerd subculture. Don't add me! Well, this is a loony take. You know what else can be correlated with the rise of right-wing ideologies? The rise of Apple fanboys. You're just gonna connect one thing to another for no reason whatsoever, and the don't at me attitude just shows total lack of accountability. Anyone saying, what about Call of Duty, isn't realizing that video games fractured into two dominant male groups, alpha jock FPS gamers and beta get good Souls players. Man, you are very generous to assume that Call of Duty players are alpha jocks, or that the Call of Duty players are the alphas to the Souls-like fans' beta. That would be the Battlefield fans. At least their latest entry was well liked. The latter is much more intrinsically tied to pseudo-intellectual fascist ideologies. The former, hoorah nationalism. Yep, this person just called Souls-like fans pseudo-intellectual fascists for no reason whatsoever. Just keep on throwing those words, right? I'm not even touching the weeb gotcha stuff. Wow, you're just gonna connect everything to everyone, right? I admittedly avoid it and don't know too much about it, but would definitely entertain some conversations. I agree, it would entertain some conversations, like whether takes like this is detrimental to human intelligence. I like Elden Ring and FPS games, guys, but the last year plus of game trailers and major events have been Souls-like and gacha, and it's telling. It's telling that the Souls-likes and gacha games are popular. Therefore, the people that like them are fascists, right? And that's all for the video today. Here's a cat. Don't forget to check out my previous videos here, click the like button, comment, subscribe, leave some tips, just $1 down below, and thanks for watching.